to allow you to walk away from your timeshare without any hassle.
So have you guys ever gone on holiday with your girl or your missus? You're on your dream vacation and then you get approached by a salesman or a saleswoman in many cases, trying to sell you a membership to something they call nowadays a holiday club. Well, back in the day, those used to be called timeshares, and they are one of the worst investments you could ever make. In fact, they're so bad that people are willing to pay thousands of pounds just to get out of the contract. And a few weeks ago, 14 people were finally brought to justice for taking advantage of people who had already fallen victim to the timeshare scam. It involved over 3,500 victims, and the Crown's prosecution service estimate they accumulated over £28 million, one of the biggest frauds that the UK has ever seen. They took out newspaper magazines, TV adverts, and even had an Emmerdale actress advertise this scam for them, and it went on for years. So how did they do it? What went on here, and what were they sentenced to? Well, keep watching the video to find out, my people, and give it a like. Let's get that out of the way.
Hi there, I'm Julie Peasgood. Thanks for joining me out of your timeshare, and just want to move on with as little fuss as possible to allow you to walk away from your timeshare without any hassle. Easy.
Now, this is a TV actor. She used to act on Emmerdale, from what I can see. And she was hired because their target demographic would be people over the age of 60. And I don't know anyone under the age of 60 who watches Emmerdale. Now, when I used to go on trips to Dubai with my girl, I mean, you guys know how I feel about Dubai, so you know that's definitely an X, a long time ago. We would get people offering us free tickets to the Burj Khalifa, I think, one time, in exchange for us to spend time with them or listen to them talk about this holiday club they had, where you would pay for membership, and it would give you discounts on, you know, staying in certain hotels, etc. And you'd be locked in for like, I think it was like 10 years or something like that. You'd have to pay an annual fee, you'd have to put some money down, or something like that. But I wasn't hearing any of it, because when I was a lot younger, my auntie and her boyfriend, they used to go to Orlando, they used to go to Florida a lot. And they had a way of getting free Disney tickets every single time. And these conversations were had around me when I was young, but there's just, you know, them certain things that you remember when you're young, just conversations. You just remember weird things. And when I bring it up to my mom, she's like, how on earth do you remember that? You were so young. And it's like, I just remember it. I don't know why. But they used to get free Disney tickets by acting like it was their first time coming to Orlando. And the salesperson would say, hey, you'll get free Disney tickets if you come and sit through this, what do they call it? Their sales pitch that would go on for hours and hours and hours. And these timeshare sales pitches are so intense. Let me even try and find one. There must be some on YouTube. Oh my God, it's still going on. This couple don't look too old.
Come stay with us to a timeshare presentation. Months ago, I received an email from Marriott inviting us to their Kauai resort for 5 nights for $800 rather than the $630 nightly rate if we attended their 90-minute timeshare presentation.
So this is how they get you in. What did she say? The hotel's $630 a night, or $800 a night, but if you come to our presentation, you can stay there for the entire duration of your holiday for $800. That's what gets people's attention. Like, hold on a second. That's how they get you in.
This is my dream resort, and I always wanted to go, so I signed us up. We showed up at our appointment time and met with the sales executive, who was actually super nice, and she took us on a tour.
Of course they're super nice. They're trying to sell you something. Of course they're super nice, man.
Of their 3-bedroom villa. It was very, very nice with great views. She asked us about what kinds of vacations we'd like to do, and then we headed back to her office to talk more numbers. We stayed there for the full 90 minutes, and once that was up, we said that no, we weren't interested, and they were actually super nice, and we didn't have to say no 50 times. They did bring in one other guy who tried to offer us another vacation to come back and to do the same thing again, but we declined that, and then they sent us on our way. I definitely think it was worth it for this great vacation. Come say no with us.
And that is how you beat the system. That is exactly what my auntie did. But she said back in the day, the presentations were like 8 hours and they would have fake people in there. Now, obviously, they can't get away. Well, they probably still do this, but it's a lot more difficult because you will get sued in America for this. But they would have fake plants in there who would end up buying a timeshare. Now, you guys might be thinking, Tankz, what on earth is a freaking timeshare? Well, let me explain it to you guys, okay? If you're somebody who frequents to a certain country, you are a target. And if you're elderly, you know, they'll say, hey, you stay at this place all the time. You guys come here for 2 weeks every year. You've been doing it for the last 5 years, haven't you? Well, I've got this amazing offer for you. If you just put down £10,000 and pay £500 a year for maintenance costs, then you can stay in this villa that you stay in every year for 2 weeks every year. You know, it's like a shared ownership thing. Even though you don't own any of that villa, you're just buying the rights to stay there for 2 weeks every year. And at first it might seem great, you know, and I want anyone watching this video who's fell victim to a timeshare or knows anyone who's been in one of these terrible contracts to share their story in the comments. But what ends up happening is over time, the maintenance costs end up rising, and over time, it doesn't become worth it anymore. It would have been cheaper to just book your stay, you know? Or maybe there's a year that you don't want to go there, or maybe you get sick of that place. You're trapped, you're stuck in the contract, and you're stuck paying every year. And the contracts are so bad that people are willing to pay 5 figures to get out of them. And that is something that Mark and Nicola Rowe took advantage of.
Hi, my name's Mark Rowe from sellmytimeshare.tv.
This scam went on for years. Him and 14 other people who were complicit in this scam targeted OAPs, old age pensioners who wanted to get out of their timeshare contracts, mainly because they were ill, they couldn't get travel insurance to travel anymore, or they just got tired of going to the same place every year, you know? I mean, you know? What they would do is find victims and guys, you know, scamming 101, build rapport. What better way to build rapport than giving people a free holiday? You know, they would employ the same tactics used on them to get them into these bugs contracts because they know they fell for it the first time. So they're going to fall for it again, fly them out, give them a free holiday. Yeah, we want to buy your timeshare. We want to get you out of it. You're thinking, oh, relief, you know, yes, we can finally get out of this terrible contract. You know, they'd bring them in a room with high pressure sales tactics and say, oh, at the end of it, they'd say, oh, sorry, you know, your timeshare is kind of worthless. Nobody wants to buy it. But hey, you know what we do have? Kind of similar to what they're doing now with the vacation clubs. They would say, hey, you know what? We're looking for someone to buy your timeshare. We're going to find someone to buy it. But in the meantime, we've got these vouchers that are worth £20,000 that we're going to sell to you for £5,000. Even says here that sometimes victims as old as 94 would lose their life savings and pensions after investing as much as £80,000. And these vouchers that reports are saying were worthless a lot of the time would be sold to them as an investment. They would say, hey, this is going to go up in price, or you can sell it on our marketplace. You can sell them on. And they were called monster credits. And I found a review here from how long ago? 2018. Somebody said I have about 180,000 monster credits, which I'm trying to get the fuck rid of, turn into real cash. What the fuck are monster credits? He's trying to offload them. 50,000 have been on their platform for approximately 2 years as they won't buy directly. These costed almost £7,000. I've been invited to a meeting to discuss my monster credits. I realize I will probably not get any money back, and they want to offer some fantastic deal to include the credit. The question is, should I attend this meeting due to the bad publicity online? I am skeptical. The question I have is, do I have a case in law for mis-selling? And clearly he did. And one thing that scammers do, right, you can reuse victims, because if they fell for something one time, they'll fall for it again. You can act as a savior. You know, if you watch EastEnders, it happened to Gene. You know, I've just taken your whole pension, and then you call them up again, pose as a law firm and say, hey, we know you've been a victim of fraud. We're going to come and get your money back, but we need a deposit of £10,000. Or before they tell you the amount of money you need to give them up front, they're going to get a gauge of how much money you actually have left, and they're going to clean you out. This is evil. It's fucking evil what they do. And I know that's rich coming from me, guys, but it's looking back, it's evil. It's evil, bro. Evil. Because they wanted to invite him to another meeting. In that meeting, they might try and sell him more and say, hey, you know, you can exchange these credits to get a good deal on this and buy this, and keep the loop going and keep extracting money from victims, from old age pensioners. And with a scam like this as well, because they almost make you believe it's too good to be true, to be a scam. You know, they'll fly me here, they'll do this, they'll do that. Scams like this are even harder for relatives to, you know, clock onto. Here is footage from an interview with him.
To negotiate the time.
Despite how well a managed organization, you've not sold one lot of credits for the value you've told someone you'll sell these to.
That is mental, guys. The police are saying how he used to sell these credits to people. He used to say, you buy them for $8,000, they'll be double in a year's time. You can trade with people. He didn't sell it at that value once, not one time.
Do you not see that as extraordinary? Why are you not just being honest and transparent with your clients? This gives the impression there were sales, not just sales, strong sales. doesn't it?
They'll come.
Where's the evidence of that?
They're coming.
This guy is no different to scam your leads. No different to scam your leads. They're the same. They're the same. They enjoyed a jet-set lifestyle and a £2.4 million home in Hampshire after hiding £8 million in profits across 54 bank accounts. Here's a photo of them smiling, not a care in the world. Not a care in the world. Beautiful house though. Very, very nice house. Got to give it to them. In one trip alone, they blew £26,000 on a private jet, posing for pictures by the plane to brag of their wealth on Facebook. Victims were flown out to the firm's fake offices in Tenerife, pictured and put up in hotels where they were bombarded with 6 hours of high-pressure sales pitches promising their investments would double in 14 months, promising it. These are pictures from their offices. They're operating out of Tenerife. And here's the company, or one of the companies, you know, it's been since dissolved. Timeshare Owners Protection Plan. The company's been dissolved, and there are a few other companies held by Mark Rowe. He has another company, Staycation Lodges, that has been dissolved, and Tolmex Limited, that has also been dissolved. Hey guys, if you could like the video, I'd appreciate it. Takes no time, helps me in the algorithm. Thank you very much. Just press like. And one thing about fraudsters, they're very greedy, you know, very, very greedy. You can never have enough. Free money to them. They don't care. They don't feel any remorse for the victim. And they were banking on the fact, because they're old age pensioners, you know, some health issues, other issues they might face, that they'll forget about this. Because nobody wants your timeshare, bruv. If you have something that is terrible and somebody offers to fly you out and to sell it to you, we live in an evil world, guys. Evil world. Red flags, your alarm bells should be going off in your head, all right? And to be fair to the BBC, they were onto these guys in 2016. They mainly targeted, you know, places where old age Brits will go, like Gibraltar, Tenerife, Portugal, Spain. A lot of people were also convicted on money laundering charges because they were laundering money through a bunch of other countries, through hundreds of bank accounts. It was a very complex investigation. That's why it took years to bring everyone to justice. But it's a huge market. It's unlimited, because they said about 600,000 people at the time in the UK had timeshares but had problems trying to relinquish them. These are people who are desperate to get rid of these timeshares because they're such terrible, terrible things, terrible contract. And this is it. You'll have couples like this where one of them will get ill. Let's say they've been going to Tenerife every year for the last 10 years. They're unable to travel anymore because they're unable to get travel insurance to travel. They've been trying to negotiate their way out of the contract because they're stuck paying £1,600 every year and they're not even allowed to use it. And some of these contracts, I mean, this is 2016. This was before Airbnb kind of boomed off. But even now, there might be, you know, clauses in the contract that say you're not allowed to put the property on Airbnb in the time that you're supposed to be there, or you're not allowed to let other people travel without you, just so the company who sold it to you can make money by listing your allotted time on Airbnb instead of letting you make the money from it. It's disgusting. But it says contacting timeshare providers was not the only way that people tried to relinquish their timeshare contract. Companies like Sell My Timeshare TV regularly advertise that they can help to dispose of an unwanted timeshare. However, BBC Scotland's investigation revealed a complicated scheme whereby clients were encouraged to buy other products for a future financial return. So you're bought there on the premise of getting rid of your timeshare, but they're just using the same tactics that got you into the timeshare to sell you more nonsense. Their personal finance journalist made initial phone contact with the company and was given a valuation of £9,400 for the timeshare. He said that his mother owned the company, also invited him to meet face to face. And it says when he attended the meeting, they had no intention of paying the £9,400 that they talked about on the phone. It's too good to be true. I even was getting it wrong throughout this whole video. I thought they were offering people the chance to pay that money to get out of it, but no, they were saying that they would give them that money to get them out of the timeshare. That's never gonna happen. That's way too good to be true. This is undercover filming. There's no sound. There's no sound. I don't know why they blur their face, but there's no sound on this. And they try and confuse the older people, you know? They bring you there on that premise and then you get told, no, but confuse you. Yeah, here's some money, you know? I came to get money. Now I'm giving you money. He was told that he would receive credits which could be held for more than a year and could be used as partial payment for goods or be sold. It was from the profit of the sale of these credits that the $9,400 initially promised for the timeshare would be taken. In 14 months, months' time, we could sell these credits for £17,216, which magically covered the £9,400 they were paying for the timeshare, plus the $6,700 we were paying up front. The Sell My Timeshare presentation was a very slick and well-practiced sales operation. I was presented with a number of options, but it was clear from the questions I was being asked that I was being driven down a well-worn path towards the payment of a fat fee to them in return for some credits that I could sell back to some other people at a later date. Oh, and my mum's timeshare would be taken off our hands as part of this process. It was all presented in a very believable way, and it's easy to see why people would go ahead and sign up on the day. But I would have to say that even now, I'm not really sure what I was being offered. They got to confuse you. All I know is that I was being asked to get my credit card or checkbook out on the day when I thought I was going to be given a check. Specialist lawyer Stephen Boyd has had nearly 300 clients and is in the process of launching a legal case against them. Just a scam. It's just a scam, bro. It's just a scam. It's ridiculous. So how long do you think these guys were sentenced to? Well, they've just been brought to justice. You know, we're going to go through what they were sentenced to. It was obviously a very complex investigation and it took them a long time to bring them to justice. But before we look at that, there's even Dez, big up Dez. He was going to go into retirement, but he was forced to delay his retirement because of this scam. And there are thousands of others. And with scams as well, a lot of people are embarrassed about it, so they'll keep it quiet. They won't talk about it. And the news should have had these people's faces plastered everywhere, bro. You lot defrauded pensioners, the most vulnerable in this country. But we'll read through it. And we'll keep their mugshots up on the screen. Now, the managing director, Mark Rowe, he was found guilty of conspiracy to defraud. So that means these guys actually took this to trial. And I can see why they would have taken it to trial. Their lawyers would have probably advised them to, because proving something like this is very difficult. Fraud is very difficult to prove. He was sentenced to 7.5 years and was given a 5-year company director's disqualification order. So he cannot be a director of a company for 5 years, and he'll be out in 3.5 years. Marketing director Jody Beard, 43, of El Rock, Tenerife. She was sentenced to 2 years, suspended for 2 years, and 150 hours of unpaid work. So she basically got 150 hours of community. The senior client advisor, Paul Harrison, 55, of Weymouth, was sentenced to 4.5 years. Senior client advisor Nihat Paul Sally, 57, of Paul Dorset, was sentenced to 3 years. Senior client advisor Lisa Sally, 56, I'm assuming that's his wife, from Dorset, was sentenced to 2 years, suspended sentence for 2 years, and given 10 days of rehabilitation work. So she was basically just given 10 days of rehabilitation work. Whatever that is, they're going to say, don't do fraud. They were all sentenced in January, and these were for conspiracy to defraud. In the second trial, the sales director, Simon Walker, 58, of Costa Ajay in Tenerife, was sentenced to 4.5 years and given a 5 years company director's disqualification order. The compliance manager, Joanne Physic, 46, they're from Tenerife, was sentenced to 2.5 years. They were sentenced in April for conspiracy to defraud. And David Taylor, 65, from East Yorkshire, the senior client advisor, was sentenced to 3 years. And he was sentenced in September 2025. And in January 2025, Samantha McCauley, 52, from San Miguel de Abona, Tenerife, was sentenced to 18 months, suspended sentence, and 100 hours of unpaid work. She was found guilty of fraud by false representation. She was not found guilty of conspiracy to defraud. Joanne Taylor pleaded guilty to fraud by false representation. She was sentenced to 12 months, suspended for 2 years, and given a 15-day rehabilitation requirement. Senior client advisor Lee Evans, 51, from Preston, was sentenced to 2 years, suspended for 2 years, and given 150 hours of unpaid work. Barry Fox, 69, from Worcester, was sentenced to 21 months, suspended sentence for 2 years. Josephine Cuthill Fox, 60, from Worcester, was sentenced to 2 years, suspended for 2 years. And for money laundering, the finance director, Nicola Rowe, who was Mark Rowe's wife, I'd assume, 54, from Los Blanquitos, Tenerife, was sentenced to 2 years, suspended for 2 years, and given a 7-year company director's disqualification order. Now, do you guys think that's justice? I don't know. There were over 3,500 victims across the UK who were defrauded of over £28 million. Most were between the age of 60 and 80. It said they reviewed 5.5 million recordings of phone calls, listening to and documenting the contents of almost 23,000. They reviewed 65 million digital files, analyzed 503 bank records of offenders and companies in 12 different countries, 54 of which were being used by Mark and Nicola Rowe. So a lot of work, man, and I don't think that's justice at all. It's not a good deterrent, is it? Most of them aren't in jail. They're going to be home soon. But what the CPS does say is they are, well, let me find the link. Let me find the website. I can't find where it says in the article, but it says they are going to hit these lot with POCA, Proceeds of Crime Act. They're going to aim to recoup this money. And when you have to live life under POCA, it's a debt that never goes away. And if you miss payments, you can be thrown back in jail and it's counted as a new offense. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. If you have any stories, any family members who have, fell victim to these predatory sales tactics, let me know in the comment section below. Chung Lee, what do you think about this? Chung Lee says these people are absolutely freaking evil. And Chung Lee says, don't forget, this is what you used to be on. Don't forget who you were. And you know what, Chung Lee, you're sticking it on me, bro, but I'm a changed man now, and I'm able to see the evil for what this is, because this is just disgusting. Honestly, it's disgusting, and I don't think that's justice at all. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. Leave a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.